Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Don't forget to back King Leopard, the Kickstarter. Get yourself a limited edition hardback. Link is down below in the description. Today, what's the difference between emotional projection and empathy? I realized people confuse these a lot. And this insight was actually provided a while back by Vox Day on one of his blogs or one of his Substacks, where people who are thought of as, they think of themselves as empathetic. They are imagining how they would feel if they were a refugee and having to come into Europe, right? It's like, I would be so scared and I would be afraid and I would be hungry. And it's like, yeah, and I just want to be somewhere safe. Great. But that's not what the refugee feels, right? All of the men migrating into Central Europe are having different thoughts and thinking different things, including thoughts about banging blonde women, right? So empathy is understanding how another person feels, whereas emotional projection is projecting your emotions onto another person, thinking, how would I feel over there, right? That's not empathy. I realize that so many people, especially on the left, make this critical error. I think Gad Saad called it like parasitical empathy or something like that, or like suicidal empathy, where you are imagining yourself in the other person's place to the point where you are suiciding yourself by having that person come near you, right? It's like, I would feel so sad if I was a refugee. So we have to let in all the refugees and then they destroy your society. And you're like, what? But I wouldn't have done this. Yes, you wouldn't have done this, but you didn't know how a refugee would feel or act or think, because you didn't actually consider that person's position. You considered your own position in their place, which is emotional projection. So yeah, Vox had this really good, poignant moment about that. And I was like, yeah, I haven't really critically thought about the difference here prior to this. And so it got me thinking for a while about it. I'm sure you could think of lots of other examples, but I think this has to do with, again, theory of mind. The first time we realize other people have other thoughts from us is usually when we're little children. We realize, mom and dad are different people and they have different thoughts. And so we have a theory of mind. And the first model for our theory of mind is always ourselves. And I make this mistake too, which is that because I'm generally an honest and genuine person, and I don't approach any kind of conversation or relationship with an intent to deceive somebody. Right? I don't get in there like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to do a gotcha. I'm going to trick him, right? I never approach conversations that way. I'm always honest. So my theory of mind is like, okay, we're having an honest conversation and I'm inviting other people in the comments or like on Twitter or whatever to have honest conversations with me. And so that's what we're having. And other people don't do that. Rather, they come in with a dishonest intent, and it becomes obvious, like, right? Like, comes into a comment, I respond honestly, the other person responds dishonestly, or they edit their comment after the fact, right? They do all kinds of dishonest things to try to frame their conversation with you in a way that is going to try to win an imaginary debate that they're having in their head. This is kind of a secret king maneuver, and it gets really annoying. And so my mistake is thinking, oh, because I'm acting honestly, other people are also going to be acting honestly, and I'm not looking deeply into any given comment or any given response to see if that's a person, acting in good faith. And that is a kind of fallacy, by the way, is acting in bad faith. So I've talked about this before. Like if somebody says Christians ought to do this, and it's like, okay, are you a Christian? No. Okay, well, you're acting in bad faith because you're telling people how to act when you don't believe they should act that way. So if you don't believe what your argument is based on, you're arguing in bad faith. So people do this all the time. But I realized, hey, that's a little bit of a flaw in my thinking, is I am thinking other people are acting like me. If they're not thinking like me, then they're going to be honest like me. And that's just not the case. People are dishonest all the time, and you have to be very vigilant about it. Now, in other circumstances, I'm hypervigilant. I'm hypervigilant about honesty with any kind of, any kind of communication that comes into me on my phone or on my email or something like that, right? If somebody, some random person emails me, I assume it's a scam first, and you have to prove it's not. Anyone calls me and I don't recognize the number, I just assume it's a scam, and you can leave a voicemail if it's not a scam. But it always is, right? So I'm generally never wrong there. I never miss somebody's call because they have something really important to say to me and they won't leave it on a voicemail, right? Or a text, right? Here's a text from a random number. You haven't paid your tolls. No, I don't believe you. Report, spam, block, right? So I'm hypervigilant on pretty much everything else, but when I'm engaging with my viewers, because so many of you are honest, even if we disagree on something, even if we don't perfectly agree on something, you're honest about it, right? So when somebody comes in and is dishonest, that sometimes can fool me, right? It can throw me for a loop because I'm so used to people in that mode really being honest. And that's because I am doing what I'm telling people not to do, right? I'm thinking of what they would think if I were them, right? And not thinking, what are they actually trying to do? I'm not empathizing, right? I'm projecting my emotions. And so that's something, hey, in that little circumstance, I need to be a little bit better about that. We all make mistakes like that. But I'm sure you can think about a lot of your lefty friends. That's what they're doing. They're thinking about how they would feel if they were a Mexican immigrant. They're not feeling about how the Mexican immigrant feels, right? Especially if it's someone who's getting deported for multiple felonies. It's like, I would hate to be deported. Yeah, you would hate to be deported. And I'm going to guess that the criminal doesn't really want to be deported because he's really enjoying selling drugs and making money and doing all the other stuff that he's doing. He doesn't want to go back to Mexico and deal with that, but that's you emotionally projecting, not you actually empathizing with what is going on in that situation. The other thing about empathy too is like they always emotionally project themselves onto the person who's shown as the victim on TV. So the victim is these illegal immigrants being sent home. The victim is these people from, these young men from war-torn countries. And they don't really think about the other people that are having to interact with that. It's like, what about the people who are having to absorb those people, the people whose neighborhoods are destroyed by those people? There's no emotional projection for them. You're not thinking how you would feel if you lived in that neighborhood, much less how the neighbors there actually feel about it. You're not even emotionally projecting. You're not doing even emotional projection on that case. It's very selective. It's only selecting the people that the media tells them that they need to empathize with. And that's why I'm always, when someone says, I'm an empath, I'm like, no. That's like a Star Trek thing, right? Maybe you heard Deanna Troy's an empath and you're like, I'm an empath. You don't know what I'm thinking or feeling. I don't assume that. That's probably a bad assumption. Now you can maybe imagine what I'm thinking or feeling based on how well you know me and how I've reacted to other things in the past. You're like, David is a guy who was probably not going to like this. Like actual empathy would be like, we shouldn't serve spaghetti because David doesn't like spaghetti and he's not going to eat it and he's going to feel hungry because he won't eat spaghetti because he hates it. So that would be empathy. Rather, we'd be like, why aren't you eating the spaghetti? I love spaghetti. And if I were invited to a party with spaghetti, I would love it. It's like, yes, but I'm a guy who doesn't like spaghetti. So I'm not eating it at the spaghetti party or whatever, right? So it's one of those funny things. Whenever somebody says they're an empath, I'm like, no, I think you just are good at projecting your emotions onto other people and thinking that you are feeling what they're feeling and you're imagining. You have a good imagination for that, but you're probably not even highly sympathetic to people. Much less actually empathizing with them or their feelings. So have a good one, guys. Don't forget to back the campaign. Link down below. Leave me your thoughts on emotional projection versus empathy. I think it's an important thing to think about, and one that I hadn't really carved with a razor until the last couple months, with it kind of banging around in my head and thinking about the very big difference between those two extremes. So have a great one, and see you next time.